Can you imagine it? On Christmas Eve, the night that's supposed to be sacred, the night when families gather around a glowing table filled with laughter and warmth, my very own daughter put her hand over my plate and said the cruelest words I could ever hear. "You didn't contribute a single dollar to this dinner, so you don't deserve to eat." My name is Evelyn Parker. I'm 68 years old, a widow who spent her entire life working hard to raise my child. I thought my golden years would be filled with peace, rocking in a chair, surrounded by grandchildren, soaking in their joy. But instead, I stood frozen, my hands trembling as I held an empty plate, while the entire table sat in silence, as if they agreed with my humiliation. What hurt the most was when my little granddaughter Maddie shyly tried to offer me a piece of turkey, only for my daughter to snatch it away and coldly declare, "Grandma needs to learn a lesson." At that moment, it felt like my heart was being crushed. What had I done to deserve this? With every dime I ever earned as a seamstress, I scraped and saved for her future. I helped pay her college tuition. I contributed to the down payment on this very house. I gave up everything so she could have a life of comfort. And yet, here I was on Christmas Eve of all nights, treated like a freeloader in my own family. But what they didn't know, that night was the breaking point. They thought I would bow my head, stay silent, and swallow the pain like I always had. Not this time. From the very moment I was shamed in front of my grandchildren, a fire ignited inside me, a vow to reclaim my dignity. My daughter and her husband were about to learn the hardest lesson of all. No one gets away with trampling on a mother's sacrifice. And that was the beginning of a revenge they would never forget. I quietly set my empty plate down on the table. Every sound in the room seemed to vanish. The Christmas music still drifted softly from the Bluetooth speaker, but in my ears there was only a hollow, icy silence. My eyes blurred not because I craved a piece of turkey, but because of the bitter humiliation. Even a stranger off the street wouldn't be treated this way. Yet here I was, the woman who gave birth to Lauren, turned into a punchline by my own daughter in front of her husband and my innocent grandchildren. Chase, my son-in-law, just sat there, tapping his fork against his plate, biting into a roasted potato and smirking. "Worth every penny," he said loudly enough for me to hear. That wasn't carelessness anymore. That was gloating. And from the look in his eyes I knew. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment decision by Lauren. This was a scene they had scripted together. I walked back to my room, leaving behind the smell of turkey, wine, and forced laughter. The door closed, but my heart opened a wide space filled with memories. I remembered the day I agreed to sell my old car so Lauren could have money for the down payment on this house. I remembered the 5 a.m. mornings when my calloused hands still trembled from the sewing needle, yet I pushed through to finish a few more garments to save for her future. I remembered the grateful look in her eyes when I paid part of her college tuition. All those memories now felt like knives cutting into my chest. And then, the pieces started to click. For the past 2 years, ever since I moved in, Lauren had been dropping hints. "Mom, you should chip in for the electric bill. You're running the A divided by C too much." Or, "With the way you eat, no grocery store can keep up." Words that dripped like acid. At first I thought it was just life's pressures, but now I understood. They didn't see me as family anymore. They saw me as a walking wallet. That Christmas Eve, I didn't cry. I just sat on my little bed, looking at the twinkling lights on the tree I decorated that very morning, and whispered to myself, "Enough." One door had closed, but another was opening, and this time, I would be the one holding the key. The next morning, while the whole family bustled out to the Christmas festival, I stayed behind alone in the quiet house. I opened the desk drawer where Lauren usually kept the bills and paperwork. I'm not in the habit of snooping, but this time my heart told me I had to. And then, like a lightning bolt splitting the Arizona sky, I saw them. A draft of a limited power of attorney with my name and Chase's. A pre-approval letter for a reverse mortgage loan also with my name on it. My hands trembled, but my mind was sharper than ever. Last night's humiliation had only been the opening act. They had a plan. They wanted to erase me legally, take my retirement benefits, and push me out of the very house I helped them buy. I collapsed into a chair, my breath heavy. But instead of breaking, a new fire rose inside me. I would not let my life end in disgrace. I had raised Lauren. I had survived decades of hard labor, and I knew I still had enough fight left in me. This time I wouldn't just defend myself. I would strike back. I sat there for a long time, staring at the pages filled with tiny print. The bitter ache in my chest slowly gave way to a cold clarity. The pieces snapped into place. The cold shoulder, the cutting comments, the public humiliation, none of it was random. They had been plotting to remove me from their lives, step by tidy step, and make it legal. I folded the stack of papers gently and slid them into my coat pocket. My husband, Mr. Parker, used to say when he was alive, "No one can take your dignity unless you hand it to them." This time, I wasn't handing anything over. I would hold on to it. On December 26, with the house quiet because Lauren's family had gone out to the festival, I began a quiet investigation. I opened Lauren's phone. She'd set the passcode to Maddie's birthday, so I already knew it. A few swipes, and the truth lay bare. In a group chat called Plan Ahead, Lauren and Chase were talking with his sister. They wrote, "Once the POA is signed, she can't do anything. Put $500 divided by month into Sunridge Care. Use the rest to pay off the credit cards. Does she think she still has a choice?" Reading that made my blood run cold. They weren't just planning to push me out, they were budgeting from my meager retirement, dime by dime. I screenshot each message, saved the images to my phone, and sent copies to a private email account. I knew those screenshots would become weapons when I needed them. That afternoon, I walked over to Mrs. Rosa's, my longtime neighbor, a kind woman of Mexican heritage. When I told her everything, she sighed and immediately opened her doorbell camera app. "Evelyn, you need to hear this," she said. There, clear as day, was Lauren's voice on a recording from a few weeks earlier. "My mother just mooches off us. Getting her out would make things so much easier." I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. I wasn't imagining it. I had witnesses, and I had a recording. That night I wrote a short, 3-step plan. Step 1. Cut off every channel they could drain me through. Tomorrow I would go to the bank, speak with the account manager in person, revoke any joint ownership rights, and stop all automatic transfers to Chase's account. Step 2. Find a safe place to stay so they couldn't weaponize emotions or the kids to guilt me back in. I'd move in with Mrs. Rosa temporarily, at least until this blew over. Step 3. Prepare to confront them. No more avoidance, no more swallowing it. I would make them listen to every piece of evidence, to their own words, and make them face the consequences. I closed my notebook and sat up straight. Instead of fear, a new strength was rising within me. I was no longer the weak, overlooked old mother. I was Evelyn Parker, and this time, I would stand up. The next morning in Phoenix was crisp, the pale sunlight slipping across the familiar stucco roofs. I pulled on my old sweater, grabbed the folder of documents, and stepped out. My heart was racing, but underneath it was a steadier resolve than I'd ever felt. Today would be the day I took back control of my life. First Valley Bank was only about a 10-minute drive away. I drew a deep breath before pushing open the glass door. The little bell chimed inside. A young teller looked up, and I asked straight away to see the account manager, Miss Whitaker, who'd handled my retirement account for years. When I told her I wanted to revoke Lauren's joint ownership and stop all automatic transfers, she blinked once in surprise. Then she nodded, steady and professional. "Control always stays with you, Mrs. Parker. Your signature is all we need." My hand trembled as I took the pen and signed. The sound of ink on paper landed inside me like a steady drumbeat. At that moment, I felt it clearly. I had cut the first tether. I opened a new account, moved my savings over, and ordered a card in my name only. There would be no easy route for them to touch the money I'd earned with decades of sweat. The wind bit cold on the way home, but my chest felt lighter. I had started to fight back. When I pulled into the driveway, Lauren's silver SUV was already parked out front. The door was wide open, and voices spilled from inside sharp and hurried. Lauren paced the living room. Chase slumped into a chair, his fists clenched around his phone. When he saw me, Lauren rushed forward. "Mom, why did you do that? The bank just called. Did you cancel the transfers? Do you know how many bills we have?" I set my bag on the table and looked her dead in the eye. "Lauren, you told me on Christmas Eve if someone didn't chip in, they didn't have the right to eat. Fine, I won't chip in anymore. I'll take care of myself." Chase sprang up, his voice tight and coarse. "You're tearing this family apart. Your retirement is part of our financial plan. You can't just—" I cut him off and pulled out my phone, flipping through the screenshots. I held them up so they could see. What financial plan? Moving me into some cramped Sunridge Care home? Pocketing $800 of my pension every month? Is this how you plan to treat a mother? A grandmother? The room went heavy. Lauren's face went pale. Her lips moved, but no sound came. Chase's brow furrowed and sweat beaded at his temple. I could see I had struck a nerve. I took a slow breath and continued. I have evidence, screenshots, recordings my neighbor made. If you keep threatening me or try to take advantage, I won't hesitate to call the police and a lawyer. I am done living in shadow. I will protect myself. Silence fell, save for the ticking clock on the wall. For the first time in years, I saw uncertainty in Lauren's eyes instead of arrogance. Chase slumped back into his chair, exhaling, defeated. I turned and walked upstairs. Each step left a new line carved in the house. From now on, I would not be the submissive mother. I am Evelyn Parker, and I have begun to reclaim my dignity. The next morning I was sitting in Mrs. Rosa's living room, sipping a strong cup of coffee, when the doorbell rang. Mrs. Rosa glanced out the window and whispered, "Evelyn, Lauren's here, with the kids." My chest clenched. I'd known this confrontation was coming. They wouldn't let go easily, especially when my retirement had once been their safety net. I rose slowly and stood behind Mrs. Rosa as the door opened. Lauren stood there, face flushed, tears brimming in her eyes. Beside her were Maddie and Cole, two innocent kids clinging to their mother's hands. The moment they saw me, Maddie slipped free and ran to wrap her arms around my legs. "Grandma, why didn't you come home anymore? I miss you so much." Cole looked up with those wide, trusting eyes and asked, "Mom said you were mad at us and left. Did we do something bad so you don't love us anymore?" Those words cut straight to my heart. I bent down and held the children close, keeping my voice steady. "No, babies, this isn't Maddie's or Cole's fault. You two are good kids. Grandma loves you more than anything. But grown-up things, they're complicated." Lauren pushed in, urgent. "Mom, stop. If you love the kids, just come home. They need you. I need you. Give us another chance." I tightened my hold on Maddie, raised my head, and looked her in the eye. "Lauren, a chance isn't given by tearful words. It's earned through respect. You put your hand over my plate at the dinner table and said I didn't deserve to eat with the family. You conspired with your husband and his sister to put me into a cheap care home. Do you really think any of that can be erased with a single, 'I'm sorry'?" Lauren stammered, grasping for excuses. "It was those were angry words. I was under pressure. I didn't think." I pulled my phone from my pocket and held it up. The screen showed the saved messages, every line undeniable. "What pressure makes you plan to count every penny of your mother's pension? What pressure makes you imagine my death in a nursing home and feel relieved?" Lauren went pale. Tears spilled down her face. She bowed her head and could not speak. I turned back to Maddie and Cole, kissed each of their foreheads. My voice trembled but was firm. "You two are the only reason I'm still connected to this family. But I can't live where love is replaced by calculation. If your mother truly wants me back, I need to see real change, not empty promises." I stood, took Mrs. Rosa's hand as if to draw strength. "Lauren, you can't use the kids to bind me anymore. I will see them, but only in neutral places and only when respect is real. If you want to mend this, start by learning gratitude. Treat me like someone who deserves respect, not a source of cash." Silence hung heavy. Maddie hugged me once more before Lauren pulled her away. I watched them walk down the path, past the row of cacti lining the street, until they disappeared. Tears blurred my vision, but these were different tears of resolve. I knew I had taken another step on the road to reclaiming my dignity. That night, as Mrs. Rosa and I were clearing the table after a light meal, a furious pounding came at the door so hard the frame shook. "Mrs. Rosa jumped, peered through the window, then turned to me, worried. "Evelyn, it's Chase. He's out there. He looks furious." I took a deep breath and stepped toward the door. Through the glass I could see Chase's flushed face, hair tousled, fists clenched. He bellowed through the pain, his voice rough with anger. "Evelyn! Get out here now! We need to talk, like adults!" I didn't open the door. I stood behind the curtain and answered calmly. "Chase, if you want to talk, say it out there. I can hear you." He slammed his fist against the frame again, the sound sharp and ugly. "You think you can just walk away? You've ruined our family's financial plan. Your pension is part of the budget. You owe us that contribution." Hearing that, blood rushed hot through me. I pulled the curtain back and looked him square in the eye. What do I owe you, Chase? I put in $600 a month for 2 years, paid your car insurance, helped with the mortgage. I supported your family when you were out of work, and now you treat me like a burden. When I protect myself, I'm the one destroying things? Chase's face twisted with rage. He pointed and snarled. You're selfish. This family needs you and you walked away. Lauren's been crying all day. The kids miss you. You're a bad mother. I recognized the tone no longer pleading, but threatening. My voice hardened. A bad mother? A bad mother is one who raises children, pays tuition, helps buy a house, and then is schemed into a cheap nursing home by her own daughter and son-in-law. A bad mother is prevented from eating at her family's Christmas table. Chase, aren't you ashamed to say those things? The commotion had drawn neighbors to their windows. Under the streetlights, I could see the dark lines on Chase's face sharpen. He stepped closer to the door, each word like a jab. If you don't come back, I'll come up there and drag you down myself. In that moment, Mrs. Rosa moved beside me and shouted through the crack in the door, loud and steady. Chase Hale! I've already called the police. If you stay here another minute, that's elder-threatening behavior, and I'll testify. Chase froze, his eyes darting around as people's stares landed on him. He ground his teeth and spat out, bitter. You'll regret this, Evelyn. No one walks away from their family and gets to live in peace. Then he turned, slammed into his SUV, and tore away into the night. The engine roared like a wounded animal. I stood there, silent but not afraid. If anything, a new strength rose up in me. I knew it was only a matter of time before the whole truth came out, and this time I was ready to see it through, even if it meant taking it to the authorities. That night, after Chase drove off, I couldn't sleep. I sat by the window watching Phoenix go quiet under the yellow streetlights. The next morning I made a decision I'd never imagined before. I went to the police and handed over every piece of evidence, texts, screenshots, Mrs. Rosa's doorbell recording, and the draft power of attorney, all neatly bundled. The officer who took my case listened more seriously than I expected. They wrote statements, recorded my testimony, and opened an investigation into elder exploitation, threats, and harassment. That was the turning point. Once law enforcement was involved, the scheme built around financial gain began to wobble. The bank, after seeing the forged documents and the incriminating emails, confirmed that several steps had been arranged without my informed consent. They moved quickly to help me finalize the revocation of joint ownership, freeze suspicious transfers, and give me a secure, single-owner account. Word spread through the neighborhood. Neighbors who once shook their heads now stood with me. Mrs. Rosa testified. A few others came forward to say they had overheard the insults. The social pressure mounted on Lauren and Chase. They were called into the station, issued warnings, and faced the prospect of civil liability if any misappropriation was found. Not everything was fixed overnight, but the balance shifted. In the months that followed, their lives changed in ways I had predicted. Money was tight, they sold things, moved into a smaller apartment, and most importantly, they had to face the consequences of their choices. I felt no joy in their hardship. Justice can be cold and efficient, not always gentle. What comforted me was that I had reclaimed my safety and my dignity. Those months afterward, I chose to slow down but not back away. Mrs. Rosa offered me a warm corner in her small place, and I began taking part in community activities. A sewing class at the senior center, Wednesday chess club, and a weekend kids sewing workshop. I found joy in giving my skills away, not for money, but for meaning. Mornings stopped feeling heavy. Each day had a small plan to make myself and others better. A few months later, a letter came addressed to me. Lauren's familiar handwriting, the childhood misspellings still there. She apologized without pleading. She admitted her mistakes, explained the financial pressure that had made her selfish, and asked for a chance to prove she'd changed. I folded the letter, left it in the drawer for a while, then put it away. Trust, once broken, takes time to repair. What I would not accept were empty apologies. If we met, it would be in a neutral place, with clear boundaries, and love would not come with a price tag. My story didn't end with a dramatic victory. It ended with peace restored and dignity kept. Remember, respect is not something to be negotiated. Financial independence isn't just convenience, it's protection against exploitation. If you or someone you love is in a similar situation, keep evidence, seek help from your community and the law, and never assume silence is the answer. If this story touched you, leave a comment below the video, share your experience, or tell me how you held on to your dignity. If you want more stories like this, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode of Revenge Stories, where we share tales of justice, courage, and life lessons. If you found this helpful, please share the video with someone who might need it. Thank you for listening to Evelyn's story. See you in the next video.